Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From our campus in Monterey, California, I'm your host Alan Richmond, right here on the Pentagon Channel. Welcome to the show. Well, in this episode, we'll travel to Naval Air Station Point Mugu for the flight of Sentry. We'll also look at the recent Warfare Innovation Workshop and the ethics of robotics and unmanned vehicles. But first, we're going to travel to GIFX Part 2 at Camp Roberts, California. The purpose of GIFX is to provide a field experimentation resource for the United Combatant Commands, COCOMs, and other federal agencies. In addition, state, local, and international emergency management, disaster response, and humanitarian assistance organizations participate in GIFX, helping to create an innovative cooperative learning environment. Here's Desi Mattel-Anderson.
I'm the Chief Innovation Advisor at FEMA, so I work with the different departments and initiatives to cultivate a culture of innovation within. And as we discussed in May, it's based on the imperatives that the administrator let out, which were learning and innovating as an organization, as well as incorporating our whole of community partners. So my role is really to bring folks to cultivate their ideas and build them out. And one of the things we have to do is come out to field experimentation. So right now, we have on the ground here, Alan, our response division, our recovery departments, our Open FEMA initiative, we have FEMA Corps, OCIO, and a couple of partners like Health and Human Services joining us at this event.
Talk a little bit about the collaborative effort you have with the Naval Postgraduate School and FEMA.
Oh, it's a wonderful partnership. In fact, we've been going to Camp Roberts to GIFX events since this past February. Actually, it was before then. We had our geospatial units out even a year back. But we come every quarter. We have a fantastic partnership. The Naval Postgraduate Group is incredibly good at putting these events together and scaling it up, because as you know, this August event is very robust. So it's been fantastic. And I just also have to add to the partnership our Department of Homeland Security partners of Science and Technology. Dr. Gernstein and the crew have really been supportive of the FEMA innovation team and the initiatives going forward. And if it weren't for the partnership of NPS, DHSS and team, and FEMA, we wouldn't be doing the great things we're doing on the ground right now to help survivors recover.
Talk a little bit about the kinds of things that you're doing as part of the GIFX exercise here at Camp Roberts.
We're actually building out a cell connectivity heat map. So we literally have folks, we deployed it a bit of a beta tested pilot in the Oklahoma tornadoes, but now what we're trying to do is, rather than have it be passively acting on apps for FEMA Corps members out in the field, we're taking the cellular connectivity heat map, which is basically grabbing data from the ground through sensors to show us what cellular coverage we have in a certain area. Now we're taking it a step further in this field experimentation and looking to deploy it in an aerial environment and take it on a UAV. That's just one. And the reason that's so important is our response folks and our urban search and rescue teams need to know what kind of cellular connectivity is out there. So when they go out into the field, they have situational awareness of who and how they might be able to communicate back. Additionally, it helps survivors know, because it's an open API, whether they are able to connect with loved ones with their cell phones. So really valuable tool. A second one that we're working on right now is the mobile makerspace piece. We're testing out the hypothesis that makers can come out and innovate with us in disaster response and recovery. So we have folks from 3D printing, as well as makerspaces that actually build out outside of disasters, to come in and look at spaces for us and specs to see if it's possible to take the great makers in communities and to take the great tools out there and have them innovate with us real time on our innovation team. A great example, the 3D printing piece though, that has some merit to the, again, makerspaces in disasters, is literally looking at if we can come up with 3D models of debris removal. That's just one fascinating concept, Alan, where we literally could take these models and show folks what what the volume is, what the metrics are of debris, and then subsequently decide from there how we are going to proceed with our recovery efforts.
There's always been disasters. We've always had disasters, but it seems probably because of technology, we know more about them because of the media and instant information that goes out. And FEMA has done such a great job in looking into that new technology to help people, and the bottom line really is that you're here to help people during a disaster, isn't it?
It is, and it's so important. We are taking a very disaster survivor-centric focus in everything we do, whether it's the disaster recovery centers and looking at how we can provide and streamline our processes. It could be as easy as the physical flow within the center, or it's actually going out and greeting the survivor right on the street, to looking at the cellular connectivity heat map and understanding the situational awareness so we can better provide support. It's very important from that concept of a survivor-centric mentality that we move towards making these processes faster and lighter for survivors. And in order to do that, we need to experiment and we need to use forward-leaning technologies.
Well, obviously, FEMA relies a great deal on volunteers to carry out these missions, and here's just one such volunteer. Well, we're at GIFIX here at Camp Roberts, California. We have lots of volunteers, and Allison Walker is one of them, and she's a FEMA volunteer. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in working with FEMA?
Several years ago, I was actually a Corps member in a program called AmeriCorps National Civilian Community Corps, and last March, that program partnered with FEMA, and they developed what we now call FEMA Corps, which I found out about the merger, and it was something that I really wanted to be a part of.
And you have, as a team leader, tell me a little bit about your area of responsibility. What does that mean, a team leader?
I have 6 members.
Okay.
They're 18 to 24 age range, and basically supervisory duties, budgeting, management, travel, funds, everything that a regular supervisor would do. It's a 24-hour team-based residential program, so on top of those basic things, it's nonstop for the entire year.
And are you enjoying the responsibility and the time that you're putting in on this?
I am. It's very rewarding.
Good. What was the motivating factor for you as an individual to say, I want to do that and help people?
My first experience was, as a Corps member, was down in the Gulf Coast after Katrina. And when I was down there, we did a lot of relief recovery work, and I did some work with FEMA. Not a lot, but it just, sitting in front of a disaster survivor and being able to provide them with assistance, no matter how small, is a very rewarding feeling. And so I wanted to take advantage of that opportunity and pursue it further.
Well, now you're at Camp Roberts at GIFIX, our exercise here. Tell me a little bit about what are you doing and what are your team members doing out here as part of this exercise?
Yeah, well, my team is actually working with FEMA. We are testing some apps and processes for obtaining information from survivors to smooth the process for them to make it easier and most efficient, not only for their survivors, but for FEMA itself. So,
and is it going well?
It is going well. It's giving us a great experience. We're doing some scenarios where we're based in a DRC, where individuals would come to get that information, and we're also doing scenarios where we would go to the survivors' homes and speak with them there. And we're testing the 3 different processes right now, engaging those, and that information will be used to hopefully find the best form to use in the future.
Stay with us, there's more to come on Inside NPS, right here on the Pentagon Channel. Welcome back to the show. Well, recently we had the opportunity to travel to Southern California to the Naval Air Station down at Point Mugu and to look at some of the newest in UAVs. Here's Captain Andy Arnold.
Well, we do an exercise out at Point Mugu. This exercise is sponsored by the Joint Staff and involves counter UAS and UAS type systems. This is a RDT&E effort, and it's also an exploratory effort in procedures dedicated to determine capabilities regarding UAV systems.
Captain, tell us a little bit more about what is the end result, or what is the goal that you hope to achieve?
Well, UAV systems are becoming more and more prevalent throughout the world. And the Joint Force is facing more of these things and as we deploy across the world. So what Black Dart does is it's a event where the services and industry can come out and we can do exploratory efforts regarding UAV type systems.
And in general, these are UAVs of all shapes and sizes?
That's correct. Some of these involve programs of record that have already been fielded by the various services. Some are developmental, some are sponsored by industry, some are sponsored by people, the research labs. So again, we get a variety of different types, and that gives us a wide range of items to look at.
And I imagine this collaboration, the takeaway at the end of it is that everybody shares information, and the end result is just new technology that can be developed and perhaps new working relationships.
That's correct. One of the nice things about this is we bring the entire Joint Force together, and when you get that, you get a synergy going between the different systems and the different operators, so it's a chance to learn. In addition, when you bring these different types of systems, both programs of record and those that are being developed by industry, you get to learn a great deal of getting everyone together and learning and seeing what works and what really doesn't. And the other thing is, when you do learn that something, what we are able to share that. And when you learn that something that doesn't work, we're also able to share that.
And of course, NPS was on the scene with Surpass. And to tell you more about the Sentry, here's Ray Jackson.
Surpass is a center within the Research and Development Department of the Naval Postgraduate School. Surpass stands for the Center for Interdisciplinary Remotely Piloted Aircraft Studies. Surpass does quite a bit of different things. One half of Surpass basically is the research, atmospheric research. We have a twin otter airplane. We also have an A-10 that we're getting, and that is used to anything from sniffing the atmosphere for pollutants in the air, global warming research, thunderstorm, tornado research in Oklahoma. We do a lot of work out there. We also have a radar truck that goes out there and does research. My half of Surpass, if you want to say that, is the UAV side of the house. We have the Sentry UAVs, such as we have out here. NPS is providing our Sentry UAV as a support vehicle for the Black Dart exercise. As Captain Arnold told you, Black Dart is primarily looking at counter UAV technology. Their primary focus is on the sensors, but the sensors have to have something to look at. So we provide them with our aircraft as one of their target vehicles. The Sentry aircraft is different than most of the ones you'll see around here. They bring in several different types of UAVs. Ours is very unique. As you can see, it has a different shape, different composite, different size than most of the other UAVs. So we provide something that they're anxious to look at with their sensors, because it's not common for the U.S. inventory, so maybe it is more something that you might see in one of the threat military.
Thanks very much, Ray. Well, stay with us. There's more to come on Inside NPS here on the Pentagon Channel. And speaking about Inside NPS, if you'd like to stay on the inside, go to www.nps.edu to find out more. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Well, NPS is famous for hosting many different kinds of workshops. And recently we had the opportunity to visit the Warfare Innovation Workshop. And to tell you more about that, here's Captain Jeff Klein. Well, first of all, Captain Klein, thank you for taking time to appear with us here on Inside NPS. Tell us a little bit about the Warfare Innovation Workshop.
The Warfare Innovation Workshop is actually a series of workshops that occur about once every 6 months. And it gives the ability for faculty and sponsors to leverage the operational experience of our students to struggle with real-world problems that they're concerned with. We think this complements both the students' educational experience, because they have the option of applying what they've learned in their class to a real-world problem. It expands their professional development because they understand what the real issues are that we're struggling with in the Navy, both the fiscal, manning, and operational issues. And then also it helps them and expand to learn other people's opinion. For example, we integrate young and junior engineers into this program from industry and Navy labs so that they get exposed to our student operators, and those student operators get exposed to those career civilian Navy engineers.
I'm wondering, what kind of feedback do you get from our students here at NPS?
Well, in most cases, the students absolutely love it. They're spending their own time in some cases, even during an enrichment week, in order to participate. But the opportunity as a junior officer to influence the Navy's concepts or force structure really excites them. And when they can see that what they're saying or what they're studying and their input has real relevant impact, it excites them both for their educational experience and their professional development.
Well, I suppose while the mechanics are being done, the students appreciate the fact that someone's looking at the legal and the moral aspects, correct?
Inside this Warfare Innovation Workshop, we embedded a sequence of events sponsored by the Cruiser program. That is called the RoboEthics Continuing Education Series. And the Cruiser community decided to stand this series up specifically to do just what you alluded to, and that is to start discussing the very hard ethical, legal, moral, and social issues associated with employing autonomous, robotic, and unmanned systems in operations and in war. What the students expressed this morning was their gratitude that they realize that people are looking at this and focusing on this both in and outside of government while they develop the concepts and the technologies to employ.
Many times we hear from graduates who go on to higher posts in their career around the world is the fact that they really learned their critical thinking skills here at NPS, and I suppose this is really a component of that, isn't it?
The critical thinking skills as an individual decision maker, I think, is what Admiral Mullen was referring to, and we actually give them and expose them to that capability. We also, though, give them the opportunity to interact with people that are not necessarily from the Department of the Navy or Department of Defense. Those people have different views, different outlooks. Sociologists in some cases, engineers from civilian communities, people without background or military experience, and that can be real eye-opening for them, different viewpoints in order for them to help in their decision-making process.
Well, I suppose the obvious question is, where do we go from here?
Well, the Warfare Innovation Workshop actually provides a basis for a string of activities that's going to help the Navy Warfare Development Command and OPNAV develop the concept called the Distributed Air Wing and Surface Capabilities. The Joint Campaign Analysis class and the Total Ship Systems Engineering class kicked off this continuum by taking a look at a warfare scenario to both design ships and fleet architectures to input into the Warfare Innovation Workshop. From the Warfare Innovation Workshop, our Systems Engineering Analysis students will do a year to a year and a half long project on both these areas and build architectures, assess those architectures, and then provide recommendations associated with it. The classwork, though, continues because the next class will be the wargaming class. It will take a look at the red side. That is, if we do these concepts, what will Red's response be? Where is our risk mitigation strategies associated with it? And then other classes will take a look at the information warfare capabilities, the search theory impact of distributing these things in high danger areas, and provide to the assessment in a total package that we can provide to the Navy for their assessment of this concept.
Well, it's a great program, and we thank you for all your dedication and hard work, and we'll watch closely as the program continues to develop. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Well, of course, when it comes to the ethics and the morality involved in the use of unmanned vehicles, we turn to RoboEthics, which was part of the seminar. Here's Ray Bittner. Ray, thanks very much for joining us on the show. Wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the ethics that are involved and what that component is in this series.
Well, the RoboEthics Continuing Education Series is part of Cruiser's effort to fulfill the Secretary of the Navy's objective of instilling a culture of unmanned systems and robotics across the Department of the Navy. So, Marine Corps officers, naval officers want to do more than just use robotics and unmanned systems. They have to help develop the policies for them, the mission sets, and the economics. So Cruiser has a broad mandate to look at all those things. The workshop, the RoboEthics Continuing Education Series, is intended to help not only the junior officers, but senior officers understand the complexities and nuances that these new systems may create in the policy and rules of engagement world, where if you will, the robotic rubber will meet the road. Downrange on a battlefield, how do we deal with that? And to explore those issues, that's more than just a military problem. The society is wrestling with very similar issues. This year, we brought in folks kind of from opposite ends of the spectrum on whether lethal autonomous robotic systems should be able to, is it more moral or less moral for these systems to take human life than the existing model? And that has huge implications for the future. If we're going to design systems that have this capability, we need to be in front of this discussion. The Navy's always been very open and is very trusted by the public in its execution of unusual things. The nuclear power program of the Navy, very well respected, does a wonderful job. It's kind of free of a lot of the other issues associated with nuclear power. The same way, robotics and unmanned systems, the Navy will explore the issues and find the right way to move forward on these. And we get to help, as neutral academics, we get to help foster a robust discussion. And the robotic ethics workshop this time was very robust.
So Ray, how do the lecture series and the roboethics part of this tie in with the Warfare Innovation Workshop from a bigger perspective?
So the warfare, it's very interesting because sometimes people don't see the connection. We do the roboethics continuing education series at the front end of the workshop. And people don't always think of it, we're going to go on and talk about naval and surface forces and air forces, and what does that have to do with the ethics of it? We're fighting the battle now. But then as they get into the work, okay, I have an underwater system that can lethally shoot. How much control do I have to give it? How much sensor input does it need to determine a commercial ship from a military ship? On one level, it's very easy. But if the enemy is using ships that are commercially designed but for military purposes, how does an autonomous system deal with that? So as the students work through what future naval and air forces are going to look like and the mission sets they have to accomplish, suddenly the ethics relates to the entire sensor capability that's associated with that. In addition to the algorithms and whether or not it's right or wrong, just to discriminate appropriately so that you execute in accordance with the law of armed conflict is a much different driver on technology than, hey, anything that moves, I can shoot it. So it was interesting to watch that come out in the post-workshop reviews, that the students actually made the connection and understood the implications of the morality and ethics to their system design. So the engineering touches the ethics.
It seems to me that there's just quite a bit of controversy surrounding the whole issue, isn't there?
Most of the folks tend to think right now, because we hear a lot about it, about unmanned drones. But for the Navy, you could view the torpedo as a historical, early, primitive example of an autonomous system that sinks a ship. Well, what happens when it's now the Marine Corps side of the Department of the Navy? Again, the Naval Postgraduate School and Cruiser are naval entities, so the Marine Corps is right there with us. What happens if the robotic system is in the room with persons, or it's helping a patrol of Marines move down a street and it has the ability to execute a lethal action? We have to explore those and wrestle with those things before the technology's on us. Otherwise, we wind up chasing the ethical implications of the systems as opposed to thoughtfully employing the systems in an ethical way.
I'm wondering, what kind of response do you get back from the people that attend these discussions?
Yeah, it's really interesting, from retired Navy captains to young Navy lieutenants and Marine Corps officers across the spectrum. The follow-up discussions that we had around the workshop topics were really interesting. They bring a lot of context and nuance that even the speakers hadn't really considered, because while they're ethicists and journalists and they have a broad background as well, they don't have the same perspective. So I'm a Marine Corps officer and I have a robotic system that moves with me. How do we think about the human-robot team? And there's some indications that human-robot teams might be a bridge too far for us. So there's kind of the angle of how do we really apply it, and then step back a couple levels and think, as a society, what's the implication of, we don't send people to fight our battles for us, we send machines. And if you're a person whose loved one would be in harm's way, you don't want your loved one in harm's way, and the ethics is very simple. But if you're on the other end, and a society thinks of us as autonomous, cold-blooded killers, that could have very negative political implications, and it certainly doesn't match with our view of ourselves and our morality as a country.
Thanks very much, Ray. Well, that's it for this edition of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From our campus in Monterey, California, I'm your host, Alan Richmond, right here on the Pentagon Channel. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Take care.